Hello, viewers. I am Mr. Dilip Kumar Pal, stand before you with the topic Features of New Industrial Policy during Economic Reforms 1991. It is found in plus 3, 5th semester, DSE paper 2, and the name of the paper is Development Process and Social Movements in Contemporary India. So today's topic is Features of New Industrial Policy during Economic Reforms 1991. But before I discuss the new economic policy during Economic Reforms 1991, I want to inform my viewers that the name of my channel is @Dilip Kumar Pal 9375. Never forget. If you will search this channel in Google or YouTube, you will find videos relating to plus 3 first semester to 6th semester politics and honors, videos of plus 3 first semester to 5th semester ethics and values, videos of plus 3 first semester to 2nd semester political science general elective, and videos of environmental studies of plus 3 first semester, and some political science videos of plus 2 first year and plus 2 second year. Any video you want, just write my name and the name of the topic in Google or YouTube. You will get videos in Odia and English form. Let us start. Features of New Industrial Policy during Economic Reforms 1991. In 1991, a new industrial policy was framed on the basis of liberalization. So, what are its features? Let us start. In 1991, a new industrial policy was adopted on the basis of the principle liberalization. The objective of this policy was to raise efficiency and accelerate economic growth. Following are the features of 1991 industrial policy. In 1991, liberalization was introduced in India. On the basis of the principle of liberalization, in 1991, a new industrial policy was framed. And the objective of this new economic policy is to raise efficiency in the economy and accelerate economic growth, to speed up economic growth. So, what are the features of new economic policy 1991? Features of 1991 industrial policy. First feature is de-reservation. It means sectors that were earlier exclusively reserved for public sector were reduced. However, 5 crucial areas like iron emulations, atomic energy, mineral oil, rail transport and mining were kept under public sector. Presently, only 2 sectors like atomic energy, railway operations are reserved exclusively for public sector. So, the first feature of new industrial policy in 1991 was de-reservation. De-reservation means previously for public sectors, some areas were reserved. In that area, private sector cannot enter. So, de-reservation means the reservation for public sector areas were reduced. It means private sectors were allowed to function in different new areas which were previously reserved for the private sectors. So, the reservation for the areas for the reservation of public sector was reduced. Only 5 sectors were kept under public sector. Like, however, 5 crucial sectors were kept under public sector. Like, arms and ammunitions, atomic energy, mineral oil, rail transport and mining were kept. But at present, the reservation for the areas of public sector again were reduced. Now only 2 sectors are under public sector, like atomic energy and railway operations. So, the first feature of new industrial policy 1991 was that de-reservation. It means areas which were previously reserved for public sectors were reduced. It means private sectors are allowed to enter into more and more areas which were previously reserved for public sector. Number 2, de-licensing. It means abolition of industrial licensing for all projects except for a short list of industries. It means previously for every project license from the government was necessary. So de-licensing means except some few areas are reserved for licensing, rest of the areas are free from licensing. Means in those areas, if any project will be carried on, there is no need to obtain license from the government. It means abolition of industrial license for all projects except for a short list of industries. There are only 4 industries at present related to security, strategic and environmental concerns where an industrial license is currently required, like electronic, aerospace and defense equipment, specified hazardous chemicals, industrial explosives and cigars, cigarettes of tobacco and manufactured tobacco substitutes. De-licensing means previously for almost all projects license from the government was necessary. So it was an obstacle for rapid industrialization. So government decided to reserve some areas which are important from the security, strategic and environmental concern, except these areas. For other areas, there was no need for licensing. So government decided to sanction license for a few strategic, security and environmental fields. Except these 3 fields, for other areas, license are not required, will not be required. So for some few sectors, obtaining of license from the government was necessary. So what these few sectors are? Few areas are electronic, aerospace and defense equipment, specified hazardous chemicals, industrial explosives and cigarettes of tobacco and manufactured tobacco substitutes. De-licensing means previously it was necessary to obtain license from the government to start a project. So it is an obstacle for industrialization. But in 1991 industrial policy, it was decided for de-licensing except for some, it was decided for some specific areas which are important from the security, environment and strategic point of view. For these sectors, security, environment and strategic factor, for these factors obtaining of license necessary. Except these 3, rest of the areas, licenses for the installation of the project will not be required. So these areas which are important from the strategic, security and environmental point of view are electronic, aerospace and defense equipment, specified hazardous chemicals, industrial explosive and cigarettes of tobacco and manufactured tobacco substitutes. So second feature of 1991 industrial policy was de-licensing. Number 3, disinvestment of public sector. It refers to selling of a portion of the government ownership in a private corporation to the private sector. It is also known as privatization. Another feature of 1991 industrial policy is disinvestment. Disinvestment means government decided to withdraw its partial investment or full investment from public corporations which are running in loss. And so disinvestment means government decided to withdraw a part of its investment or full investment from any public corporations and give scope to private sector to own that public corporation. So this investment means it is a policy by which government decided to withdraw a part of its investment or full investment which it had made in any public sector, and government decided to sell part of that public sector or whole of that public sector to any private sector who will run that public corporation in profit. It is known as privatization. So government decided, so by this investment government decided to withdraw its total investment or part of its investment and allow private sector to run that public sector which is running in loss. This is disinvestment. So it means privatization. So third feature of the 991 industrial policy is privatization. Number 4, liberalization of foreign investment. It means it was the first industrial policy where foreign companies were allowed to make investment in India. Another feature of 991 industrial policy is liberalization of foreign investment. It means in this policy, foreign companies are encouraged. Foreign companies were encouraged to make investment in India. In 47 high priority industries, up to 51 FDI, foreign direct investment, was allowed. In 47 high priority industries, up to 51 foreign direct investment was allowed. For export trading business, FDI up to 71% was allowed. And today there are many sectors in the economy where government allows 100% FDI. So in this policy, government encouraged foreign investment in India to make industrialization more quicker. Fifth, foreign technology agreement. Another important feature of the 1991 industrial policy is the foreign technology agreement. So what it is? In this policy, foreign technology agreement was allowed. In this policy, all industries are allowed to make foreign agreements. And there will be no restriction to make foreign agreements to increase industrial production and to bring high technology to the country. In place of MRTP, monopolistic and restrictive trade policy, in place of MRTP, monopolistic and restrictive trade practices, Competition Act 2002 was implemented. In place of MRTP, monopolistic and restrictive trade practices, Competition Act 2002 was implemented. The MRTP has provisions for not to allow concentration of economic power in the hands of a few and it restricts competition. In MRTP, competition was not allowed. In MRTP, competition was not allowed. It restricts competition and it works. How it works not to allow concentration of economic power in the hands of a few. MRTP has two objects. First object, it restricts competition among different organizations. Number 2, it does not allow concentration of economic power in the hands of a few. In place of MRTP, Competition Act 2002 was introduced, which promotes competition and protect consumer interest. So, in place of MRTP, Competition Act 2002 was introduced, which allows competition and it works for public interest. So, these are the 5 important principles of new industrial policy 991. Now, see, outcomes of new industrial policy of 1991. By new industrial policy 1991, what were the outcomes? Number one, the 1991 policy made license, permit and quota raj a thing of the past. It attempted to liberalize the economy by removing bureaucratic hurdles in the industrial growth. The first outcome of new industrial policy 1991 was that it ended license, permit and quota raj. In this policy, license system was abolished, system of permission was abolished, and it made an attempt to make all industries from bureaucratic hurdles. In 1991 policy made license, permit, quota raj a thing of the past. It attempted to liberalize the economy by removing bureaucratic hurdles in the industrial growth. Previously there were bureaucratic rules and regulations, but industrial policy 1991 made an attempt to make all industries free from bureaucratic hurdles so that there will be quicker industrial growth. Number two, limited role of public sector reduced the burden of the government. As the areas of public sector were reduced, so the government burden is reduced. Limited role of public sector reduced the burden of the government. The areas of public sectors were reduced, so the burden of the government was reduced because there was no need for the government to take responsibility in every sectors. Only a few sectors were reserved for government for public sector. So government is reduced from burden. Number three, this policy provides easier entry of multinational companies, privatization, license, liver licensing, etc. All this resulted in increased competition that led to the lower price in many goods such as electronic prices. By another outcome of this policy is that by this policy, there was easy entry of multinational companies and privatization, liver license in the country. By this policy, there was easy entry of multinational companies, privatization in the country. So by this, there was competition among the industry in the country. All this resulted in increased competition that led to lower prices in many goods such as electronic prices. Due to this policy, there was liberalization. Due to liberalization, there was easy entry of foreign companies, multinational companies. There was privatization and there was competition between private sectors. Due to competition, prices of different commodities were reduced. So, basically the electronic equipment prices were reduced. So, it was beneficial for the customers. Now, four, this policy was followed by a special effort to increase exports. By this policy was followed by a special efforts to increase exports. By this policy, exports were encouraged. Export of the country increased. Concept like export-oriented units, export processing zones, agri-export zones, special economic zones, and national economic and manufacturing zones were emerged. All these have benefited the export sector of the country. By the new industrial policy 1991, liberalization was introduced and it was encouraged to make export. So as it encouraged for exports, so various export-oriented units came into existence, like export-oriented unit like export processing zones, agri-export zones, special economic zones, and national economic and manufacturing zones came. All these have benefited the export sector of the country. So by this policy, export process was accelerated. So in this video we have discussed important features of new industrial policy 991. I request my viewers to subscribe my channel if you have not subscribed, so new videos will come to you. There is no need for you to search. And aware of your friends about this channel, so some students will get useful video. Okay? Thank you. Have a good day.